Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in my hands here are the Ruger 1022 Takedown. This here is an exclusive model that I was fortunate enough to get my hands on. Now at this point in my channel, I am very much a novice. This is literally my very first rifle and quite honestly, my first time shooting a rifle as well. I've used other firearms, handguns, shotguns, but never a rifle. And so for me, this particular model made a lot of sense for a number of reasons. And so in this video, what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about this in detail, but I'm gonna also get out to the range and show you my first time really getting this out and practicing, putting a number of rounds downrange, 115 rounds actually at various different distances, and getting some impressions on how this will perform for me. But why the 1022 and why the Takedown model? Well, there are a number of reasons why this makes a lot of sense, but you're gonna have to stick around to find out. And if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. So yes, the 1022 Takedown. Now why is this the model for me? Again, in the intro you heard me saying this is my first rifle and my first time really getting into rifles. I am very much a novice when it comes to firearms. And so if you hear anything that I'm talking about, and maybe you're a little bit more of that seasoned veteran or somebody with some more experience, if there's anything I've learned from running my primary Outer Limitless YouTube channel, it's that, well, you guys have a whole bunch to offer. So do me a favor, leave some comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But the reasons why for me, well, you need to keep in mind, I am going through a little bit of an iteration. First off, I got a couple of handguns, 9mm, great, perfect for me, gets me to the range, gets me my everyday carry needs if I so choose. But then I transitioned to the shotgun in 12 gauge, and that's fantastic, adds a whole other level of sport. But moving forward, well, the rifle is the next sort of, I would say, chapter in what I want to learn about. So a new type of firearm, it has different capabilities, different ranges. And the reason for 22, well, I would say it's sort of threefold. One, I wanted something that was quite honestly going to be reasonably cheap and affordable. I have a lot of expensive ammo for my other firearms. I wanted something that was going to be cheap. Second, I really wanted to transition from my handguns, going from the 9mm to 22. And well, this gives me the ability to kind of get a couple of firearms in that same caliber, which is great. And third, I really want to get my oldest son into shooting, and fairly soon. He's about to be 12. We can go to the range, and well, having something that he's capable of shooting safely makes a lot of sense. But then the next thing, well, why the Takedown model? For me, this is sort of an interesting fact that, well, this is the Takedown. Am I going to necessarily need a Takedown model? My answer to that is, I don't know. I mean, do I necessarily need something that can break down and go into a backpack? I mean, I'm not really allowed where I am to hunt with a rifle, so that doesn't do a lot of good. And, well, I don't really honestly ever plan on sort of, bugging out and needing to bring this with me. So does that make sense? I don't know. But for me, I think the reason for the Takedown, again, is sort of twofold. One, the cool factor and the ability to really, I would say, use this for potentially more things if needed. The ability to break this down, get it compact, get it in a bag, really transport it very easily, and sort of a little more low-key. That's kind of nice. Second, it's kind of hard to get your hands on 1022s, not impossible, but you kind of don't have as many options as if the market was flooded with these. Right now, it's a funny time, and when you look through as many different models as you can, you're kind of limited to some pretty basic things. And I found this one, and this is an exclusive. This is actually a Talo Distributors exclusive model. This is in this really cool, and they call this the Go Wild Camo in IM Brush, which when I saw this, I was like, it's different. I've never seen anybody review one that looks like this. You don't see a lot of photos of one that looks like this. And for me, it actually looks the part. It just is cool. It fits my style, and all things seemed to make sense. So, well, I end up with the Takedown model, which I think has its pros. Now, cons, I haven't figured that out yet. I'm not really knowledgeable enough to really even begin to tell you if there's a con. I do hear people talking about, well, you know, when you put this back together, are your sights going to line up and all that? But I don't think there's going to be too much of a problem because at least on the barrel that I have, my rear sights and my front sight are still on the barrel. This does flip down, so this can go down and out of the way. I found for me, there's kind of no reason to mess with that. I feel like anything, the more times you raise something and lower it and mess around with it, it just has the potential to go wrong. So where I don't expect this to really snag on anything, I think for me, I'm pretty much just going to leave that up, set it, and forget it. Now you'll notice on the barrel here, this is a bronze Cerakote. So some models have stainless. This one does not. This is a bronze Cerakote, and it is absolutely beautiful. I love the way this looks. And you'll notice, really not only on the barrel, but on the upper receiver section as well. So you have that Cerakote there too, which is really pretty. I like the way they did this. It matches the actual camo pattern just about perfect. And then you can see a little bit of stainless showing there here on your lever. So it's really, this is a beautiful looking firearm. I love the way it looks. Generally speaking, I'm very happy with it. Now the things that I'm starting to think about. So for example, just to note that this does come with a firearm lock. So if you're curious about the contents that this comes with, it does come with a lock, but it also does come with an upper rail. And so as we look at this, this is in black. It comes with all of the hardware, and just be careful not to lose that, but it does come with an optics rail. Now this is black, which I kind of wish it was bronze Cerakote, which would really sort of take this to the next level. And I'm thinking about mounting this. It actually goes one specific way. It's drilled for a certain pattern. But I'm thinking about putting this on there, and I'm starting to think about scopes. Now, for short range and for the indoor range that I've been practicing at, this is going to be just fine as it is with the call them the iron sights. But I really want to start practicing outdoors, and if I can find a range with long enough distances, I do want to investigate scopes. And maybe that's where you can come in. Again, I'm a novice. I don't know too much about it. I need to start doing my research. So for those of you who have experience with a 1022 or with rifles in general, what would you suggest for a sort of entry to mid-level scope that you would suggest putting on this 1022? And so at this point, let's take a quick break from looking at the firearm. We're going to go to the range. I'm going to put a number of rounds downrange. Again, about 115 rounds of 22 LR. This performing pretty well. It has led to some questions, which I will discuss during the shooting footage. If you'd like to skip that, take a look at the timestamp below where you can fast forward to some of my other thoughts on this firearm. And so now getting the Ruger 1022 Takedown out to the range. First things first, well, unpacking it, that is definitely very easy. The fact of the matter is this case does a nice job to protect your firearm, and it's really compact, which has its benefits. It's easy to store in your vehicle, it's easy to carry into the range, and well, just simply assembling the rifle, very straightforward. Loading the magazines, not too difficult. If you've loaded magazines in the past, I found that these rotary magazines are not too big of a deal. You pretty much just need to find a little slot and get your bullets installed by pressing them down like you would any other typical magazine. Well, getting this going for the first time, the 1022, how's it going to feel? First shot, not too bad. At least it's on the target. Generally speaking, I need to mount the weapon a little bit higher, but overall, I do think that for my very first time shooting this, I'm doing a pretty good job finding my target, getting my sight alignment at least reasonable, and putting some pretty good shots on the target at 15 yards. Now, one thing I found is if you're not careful working the lever on your bolt assembly, it can lead to a jam. Unfortunately for me, pretty much right away, I had a fairly significant jam that over time I was able to clear, but the problem was I had a round that was lodged in the chamber, but not able to fully make it into the chamber because of the soft lead of the bullet. It really got wedged and it was very difficult to clear. I couldn't get the magazine out. I couldn't get the bullet in. It was really very difficult, but I did manage to work my way through it and eventually getting this back up and operational. Well, it's time to proceed. So overall, I did manage to put 40 rounds downrange at 15 yards. From here, you'll see 3 more rounds of 10, working my way through the 10-22 and doing a pretty good job. You'll notice that by the end of this, my grouping fairly consistent. Now, not as tight as I would like, but I would say fairly consistent, generally being up and to the right. If you'd like to see more action at 20 yards, do me a favor, take a look at the timestamp below.
Alright, so just so you know, first time's free. After that, it's a $25 charge. Every time you hit it, I'll have them reset it for you.
I mean, this freaking spring will let you anyway. The little one? Yeah. Holy crap. Yeah, go there. Oh, there's no. That one.
Now here getting set up at 20 yards, fresh paper, well, missing my first 2 shots. I don't know exactly why, they weren't even on the paper, but making a quick adjustment, making a little bit of a refinement, getting my sight picture, and putting some more rounds downrange, 8 shots on target, pretty good. Overall, not the best, but at the same time, well, at least I'm hitting the paper.
I shot that shit and I hit the top, the white. We just opened that. No, it wasn't on the way. It came back.
Now overall, I did put 40 shots downrange at 20 yards. If you'd like to take a look at what I did at 25 yards, do me a favor, take a look at the timestamp below. Now you'll notice every now and then a couple of misfires. Not that this was a full misfire, it was rather a misfeed. So needing to work the lever on the bolt to get the round seated into the chamber, but continuing on, this did happen a few times. It's not a huge deal, but it is something worth noting.
Is there
You guys, you got it. Before? So what do you do with it? Honestly, dude, it's not too big a deal with this gun, but it was like.
Now overall, wrapping up at 20 yards, you can see, again, fairly consistent, generally up and to the right. I'm not exactly sure why. I think I know why I'm shooting a little bit high, but at the same time, the right, well, is that just trigger pull? Is it sight picture? Not too sure. It's just something I'm going to need to learn over time. Now here at 25 yards, really thinking about it in terms of the length of my property. That's pretty much the length of my driveway, ballpark roughly about 75 feet. Generally finding my sight picture, doing a pretty good job getting these shots on target, and really actually honing in on the orange, which is fantastic. Overall, not too bad. I mean, for my first time with a rifle and at 25 yards, I feel like this is pretty reasonable. Now overall, I did have 35 rounds downrange at 25 yards. If you'd like to continue on to my final thoughts, do me a favor and take a look at the timestamp below.
That's why I don't do that. I when it stood like that, probably went up. Yeah. Quite sure I got nervous. Every time I load it,
Now again, at 25 yards, very consistent results. I am happy with my grouping from the standpoint that, well, even if it's not truly accurate, it's at least consistent. It's something I can work on, it's something I can understand, and it's something I can correct. So overall today, very, very successful. And breaking down the rifle, well, extremely simple. Breaking it down, getting it packed away, no problem at all. The Ruger case doing its job, having some nice inserts, and the ability for me to pack this up nice and safe and secure. I do like these Velcro attachments. They're very convenient and actually give me the ability to use these in other packs if I so choose. Getting the stock placed in here, very simple. There's really only one way for this to go, having some nice dividers and the ability for me to get this lashed up into place with ease. Very quick, very easy, and keeps my rifle safe. And furthermore, getting the magazines packed up into the inside, Ruger at least having a few pockets in this case and the ability to get everything stashed away where you need, packaging this all up, getting it put away, this works out extremely well. And so now back from the range, overall, pretty good. I mean, not perfect, but for somebody who's just getting started and kind of gaining experience, I can say I'm happy with the results. A couple of misses, I'm not exactly sure why, but like anything, at least the bulk of my shots were on the target. And well, unlike some of the other guys that were actually hitting the carrier, I feel good that I at least got on the paper. So overall, pretty good. Now, I do think I'm making a couple of fundamental mistakes that I need to correct. For example, getting the little bead on my front sight properly engaged in the rear in my sight picture. I think what I'm doing is really leaving that a little bit too high in the cutout, which means that my shots are going slightly high. That would explain for the vertical. As far as the horizontal, that might just be trigger pull or just sort of how I have the firearm mounted on my shoulder. I'll figure that out in time. But overall, I'm very happy with this. I will certainly gain experience and be able to shoot faster and faster and faster and more accurate. Now, not that you need to go with speed. All I'm saying is the ability to shoot accurately a little bit quick with a 22, I think, has some advantages. Now, some of the things that I think were a little bit finicky and I really struggled with, let's talk first about the actual magazines. These fit just so funny and tight. First off, they're a rotary style magazine. These are 10 round. They overall work pretty much just fine, but I feel like the springs are a little bit weak or something like that. Now, I did get an additional 3-pack. This firearm comes with one. I did get the additional 3-pack, cost me right about $50, which is not a bad deal. And at this point, I have the ability to load 40 rounds ahead of time and really get to the range. But the reason why I say these magazines are finicky, first off, they do only go in one direction, of course, but as I install these here, and, you know, that's the first thing is, you know, it's not a huge deal, but you kind of got to, like, push them and square them up and then get them in. It's not like a handgun where they just fit in. These you kind of need to, like, square them up and get them to sit in, and then they finally pop in, and that's not a big deal. But getting them out, really does suck. And I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I thought, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but it kind of is. Now, this particular 1022 has a pretty good size magazine release, but at the same time, these are just like feisty. And again, as finicky as they are going in, they're equally, if not more finicky coming out. And I'm hoping these will kind of wear in time and just get a little easier. But again, getting these back in, that went in, and to get them out, you have to reach under and grab on this little plastic lip as you're pushing onto this, and then they come out. So not a huge deal, but at the same time, it's just, quite honestly, kind of a pain in the ass. And so I've loaded this with some dummy rounds. I have 5 of them in here. The next thing that was a little bit surprising to me, and again, not being an expert, and feel free to weigh in below, but I found that the feed was not the most consistent. So if you're not careful, now, again, being a little bit new to this, I thought I would take the lever, pull it back, and then let go, and let it send the round into the chamber, kind of like you do with a handgun. But for me, it was actually getting wedged, and because the bullets are soft, they were actually getting seriously jammed. And at that point, not that I was like concerned about safety, but like, you have a half-loaded firearm in a situation where you can't get the magazine out and you can't get the bullet in. So I really had to fight it at one point, and it was early on. So I was able to get the weapon clear, and I was careful. I put the gun on lock on the safety. I kept it down range, and I just sat there and messed with it until I finally got it out. So it worked out. But my point being, I was going like this and then letting it go. And well, was it really getting the bullet all the way in? It was kind of questionable. So what I found was, in reality, I kind of had to manually push it when I would rack this every time. And at that point, it actually worked better. So are you supposed to pull this back and let it go? I don't know. Did I not pull it far enough back? And at that point, it kind of jammed. I don't know. But what I found was I really needed to manually do it myself. And that really reduced the potential for feed issues. And then when I was shooting a couple of little feed issues, not a big deal. You saw I had to sort of rack that slide a little bit a couple of times. Worked out overall just fine. Not a big deal. I know 22s are going to come with their issues. And for me, I'm just going to have to learn. Now, if you've watched any videos on the 1022, you probably see that it comes with a case. At this time, this is the case that mine came with. Very straightforward. I kind of wish it was a little more built out because I wouldn't necessarily need to get another case. This is what I'm going to put as serviceable. A serviceable case. Something that will work for you if you don't have another choice. And it's all well and good, but I'm kind of looking for a little bit more personally. Now, there are some things about this that I think are great, and it's going to really lead to my ability to be successful as I move forward with the Takedown model. First, I'm going to steal this morale patch because it's just cool. So that for me is coming with me. I'm glad it came with the Ruger morale patch. Definitely neat. Other than that, not much on the way in the back. I kind of wish the D-rings were set up for more of that backpack style, which they're not. You could almost have a little molly on here, which it doesn't. I actually wish there was some on the front, which it doesn't. It kind of limits my ability to use this for the day. I can use it. It's a case. It's just limiting. Now, one more aspect about the case that I think is fairly important. The zipper is working very well, but more so, they do have the ability to lock them. For me, having some easy storage and the ability to appropriately lock up my firearms, that's always going to be important. So here you can see, taking the zippers and sort of merging them together, you do end up with that pass-through hole there. Now, I found that something like a suitcase, sort of like luggage lock, works best. That fits right through and pretty easy. So this little cable lock here, and then just keeping that locked, little combination lock, very simple. So overall, that works out very well. So this Ruger case doing a pretty good job and definitely suits my needs for basic storage. Now, the inside, very cool, actually. The fact that this is literally completely lined, that works to my advantage. Now, this came with all of these mounts which are all Velcro mounted, which is awesome. I can steal these and I can use them in my other packs, which are Velcro lined on the inside. So now leveraging what this case came with, well, it's going to allow me to build out really my sort of bug out bag with my takedown rifle. And here, these pads working very well to help protect your firearm. On the inside here, you end up with some pockets. Now, I did actually take my magazines and stored those in there for the way home, no problem, because I knew the padding would protect the firearm itself. You already saw I removed both the lock and the rail for the top of the rifle, but inside here, just a few other things. Very straightforward. There is a shoulder strap for this bag, which whatever, I probably won't need the shoulder strap moving forward because I probably won't bring this to the range. I'm just going to use this for simple storage. And then here, actually very important, this is your user's manual, which I do need to read. I want to take a quick breeze through this and get some talking points and, you know, really a little bit of an understanding as I move forward, both for myself, but as I teach other people. So for me, the 1022, well, it's not just for me. This is also going to be something that my wife can use, my kids can use. I think we're going to enjoy this. It's going to be perfect for the family. So the more proficient I am, the better. Reading up on the manual, definitely going to help. Now, I've already gone through this in a quick cleaning. I did a pretty good job. I haven't taken it down completely, but I did enough to get that clean. And that is really one of the great benefits to the takedown model. Now, you do sort of need to lean on both of these levers. So I found if I grab the firearm, really put my sort of finger over the top, grab the firearm, put my finger over the top. At that point, I can separate and pull. Very easy. Putting it back together, you don't really need to press on anything. It just goes right back. But to get it apart, you kind of need to pull that just a little bit. Very simple. So super nice, super quick and easy. Absolutely beautiful. I love this. I cannot wait to get further into this rifle. Build it out a little more, get an optic on here, try and hit some targets further and further out, tighten up my groups, and really enjoy life with a 22. I know a lot of people might say, well, a 22 rifle is something that pretty much every firearm owner and enthusiast should own. I would say I definitely agree. This 1022 is going to be fantastic for me. So starting with the Ruger, who knows where this will go, but in the meantime, it looks the part, it feels the part, it's fantastic. I'm extremely excited to own this for reasonable money and for reasonable expense, round after round after round. The ability to safely teach my kids, teach my family, and just have something that's going to be a lot of fun. And so if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my primary channel, my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. If you enjoy outdoor gear, hiking, camping, and backpacking excursions, everything from all your shelter systems, sleep systems, flashlights, backpacks, EDC, everything from knives, axes, you name it, that's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.